Hello, welcome to India Tonight. I'm Karan Thapar. You can't fail to notice that Tihar jail is suddenly becoming a very crowded place. Over the last 2 months, MPs, ministers, civil servants and corporate CEOs have been committed to its precincts. Consequently, many people are asking, is this a significant shift in Indian justice? Silently but surely is something dramatic happening? That's the question we should address today. With me, the man who's been pushing for A. Raja's prosecution, Subramanian Swamy, Planning Commission member Arun Maira and corporate lawyer H.P. Ranina. Mr. Swamy, the Hindu newspaper did a count yesterday of the number of politicians and corporate leaders suddenly in Tihar jail. The list includes the Minister A. Raja, an MP Suresh Kalmadi, senior civil servants Siddharth Bahura and R.K. Chandolia, corporate leaders Shahid Balwa, Sanjay Chandra, G. Doshi, Hari Nair, Surendra Pipada. Does all of this represent a fundamental shift in bringing big names to justice?
I think it represents a fundamental shift in the level of tolerance in the country for corruption going down, and there is a very strong demand that something should be done, and I think the fundamental change has really taken place in the apex institution of the Supreme Court, and it's the Supreme Court which has really set the ball rolling. Of course, some of us contributed by being there with petitions, and they can't do it suo moto, but they have. The Supreme Court that really has made the country proud.
Arun Maira, in fact, you could also add to that list I read out NALCO chief A.K. Srivastava and his wife, several top officials of the organizing committee of the CWG, and who knows, by the 6th of May, even Chief Minister Karunanidhi's daughter Kani Moi. Is this unprecedented?
Yes, it is. Like Mr. Swamy said, that's why we are discussing it. It is quite unusual. And like he said, I think it's a good thing.
When you say it's a good thing, is it a sign that in fact India is now taking the duty of bringing to justice people who are accused and guilty regardless of who they are, how important they are and how well connected? Is that a fair conclusion to come to?
It seems like that, yes. It is a fair conclusion.
So this is a fairly significant shift in Indian attitude and Indian judicial behavior.
I think so.
Mr. Ranina, who gets the credit? You heard Mr. Swamy saying that in fact the credit goes to the Supreme Court, but does some of the credit also go to the government?
Well, I would not say anybody gets a credit. It's just that a lot of scams have suddenly surfaced in the last 1 year, starting from last of July. And just this coincidence which is responsible for the crowding of jails, as you mentioned. But my point is that this is an issue which has to be ultimately decided. I think putting people behind bars before they are convicted doesn't really sound good, because I think this is still at an investigation stage and one should not jump to the conclusion they are all guilty of an offense. So putting them behind bars at this stage and keeping them side by side with criminals, I think needs to be looked at again.
I will certainly take up that issue in a moment's time, because I think it's a fair point you raise, although I will point out for the sake of the audience that it's not unusual and unique in this circumstance. In India, people after being arrested do get put behind bars before they are found guilty, regardless of who they are, and if it happens in India to the poor and the unconnected and the unimportant, it should also happen to the rich, the well-connected and the VIPs. Wouldn't you accept that point, Mr. Ranina?
I entirely accept that point. In fact, even the poor should not be kept behind bars. There are cases where the poor who have not been convicted at all, who have been in jail for maybe 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, people who have been acquitted continue to be in jail. So obviously this law should apply to everybody, the rich and poor.
Absolutely. Let's take up that issue about people being put behind bars before conviction later. It's an important one, but I don't want to mess up our real discussion by bringing that in. Let's stick to this question of where does credit lie. I know that you gave credit to the judiciary, although Mr. Ranina actually thought this was a bit of a coincidence rather than something that the judiciary can claim. What about the media? How much credit goes to the media for bringing up the CWG and 2G scams and then persisting with the exposes?
Well, as far as the 2G is concerned, The media was a latecomer. In fact, when I first started writing to the Prime Minister asking him to give me sanction to prosecute Raja, the media just refused to take notice of it. It's not that I didn't bring it to their notice. I in fact stuck my press releases on their faces, but still they didn't give coverage.
So in fact the truth is the media really only jumped on a bandwagon when the CAG began to move it. In the early stages,
yes,
when you were raising the issue separately,
yes, right,
Sitaram Yechuri was raising
yes,
it, a bit after you,
yes,
Arun Jaitley, the media ignored it all.
Arun Jaitley never was in the picture, I think.
So the media claim
Yes,
that they've been at the cutting edge of this expose is actually a bit of puffery, if I can so quote it. It's exaggerated.
yeah, it's like first boiling the vegetable and then putting the spices. The media certainly has added a lot of spice, a lot of coverage, but I think they recognize this is a popular issue, and it's good business, and that's how they got into it.
Mr. Mara, let me put this issue of credit to you. This is a set of prosecutions that are happening because the CBI, which is a branch of the government, is actually bringing people who are accused to justice. How much of the credit goes to the CBI, in particular for the manner in which they have got to the bottom of the somewhat complicated and technical story that underlies the 2G scam?
I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think many people deserve credit for whatever they have done, like Mr. Swamy and the media and the CBI, to enable this to come about. I mean, issues like this have to be handled in a systemic fashion. Means it's not just one person, but several organs of society which start to work together, and then you begin to get the change in the way society has been working. And I do feel, Karan, that this jumping to who gets the credit is at the root cause of why we don't get things done in our country. People want to get the credit too quickly for something. The media quarrels with others to say, we were the first. In the civil society, who's going to get the credit for the change? And this really pulls things down.
Of course, grabbing credit when things are being applauded by the press and public society is a human response and reaction. Although the government hasn't done it publicly, individual ministers don't hesitate to claim credit for their government. Is it right to say that if the CBI gets credit, and you gave the CBI credit, some of that credit must be shared with the government as well?
Of course. I mean, what is the government? The government has got so many organs, and if one organ of the government is doing very well, the government gets that credit. At the same time, if some other organ of the government is not doing so well, the government should get the blame for that too. So, in this situation, yes, one organ of the government is getting the credit for pointing out that another organ of the government wasn't doing so well. But that's inherent in the structure of government.
Okay. That's a very fair
point. Wasn't doing so well, but that's inherent in the structure of government.
Okay. That's a very fair point. Mr. Ronina, let me draw your attention to something that I was told the other day. When the subprime scam hit America in 2008 with banks, insurance institutions and insurance companies and mortgages going underneath, no CEOs were investigated, prosecuted or jailed. Could we therefore today in India claim with a certain pat on our own backs that we've done a better job cleaning up the stables than the United States? Or is that a dreadful exaggeration?
Well, I would say it's too premature to make a comparison at this stage. But all that I would like to point out is that the CBI has now become more technologically savvy. And as a result, I think the investigations are progressing quite well. And this is, I think, something which we need to now accept. So CBI is now becoming more and more professional, and that's a very good thing. And once it becomes professional, I think the other aspect which needs to be pointed out is it also must have independent authority to work, to function, so that it is not continuously being attacked by the opposition saying that you are a tool of the government.
Sure.
So once we have an independent investigative authority which is technologically savvy, I think it's going to be a great thing for India. And
I should, for the sake of the audience, point out that one of the recommendations in Anna Hazare's Jan Lokpal bill would actually ensure that the CBI works under the supervision of the Lokpal and therefore would no longer be directed by the government. Let's come to some of the anomalies of the situation. We're all praising the way the Supreme Court has reached out and brought people to justice or is beginning the process, but there are some anomalies. For instance, if 3 top people from Reliance are arrested and jailed, is it odd that Anil Ambani is not touched at all?
No, it's not odd because it's a question of sequencing. You see, I think our judicial system has a capacity, and we have many charge sheets coming, and it's not necessary that they should be in the first charge sheet or the second charge sheet. I think the evidence gets built when you start putting the people who actually did the nitty-gritty of the operations, and then get evidence from them. And I think that it will lead to a situation, I am 100% certain, that Mr. Anil Ambani and Mr. Tata will see the insides of a jail.
You're sure of that?
I'm absolutely certain.
It's so important a thing that I want to repeat it. It will lead to a situation where you're 100% certain that Anil Ambani and Ratan Tata will see the inside of a jail.
Yes.
Not as visitors, but as people who are arrested.
Yes, certainly not as visitors. Maybe you as visitor, but not them.
Well, thank you for that exclusion. Mr. Myra, you heard Subramanian Swamy say that sequencing is the explanation why top officials of Reliance have been arrested and charged, but not Anil Ambani himself. But if promoters of Unitech are questioned and jailed, should that not apply to Reliance? Should you have a different sequencing for Unitech and a different sequencing for Reliance?
It depends on the information that is available right now about the complicity of different people in Unitech, and the information available today about the complicity of people in the other organizations. So I think again, to jump to a conclusion that someone is being favored